أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي رب زدني علما بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم يا أيها الذين آمنوا أنفقوا مما رزقناكم من قبل أن يأتي يوم لا بيع فيه ولا خلة ولا شفاعة والكافرون هم الظالمون. O believers, spend of that which we have given you before the day arrives in which there will be no transactions and no friendship and no intercession. The disbelievers are the transgressors. Here something is being said which is repeated very often in the Quran, urging the believers to spend. Sometimes I feel that the believers, the Muslims, misunderstood the meaning of the word spend. Sometimes they think they have to spend lavishly on ourselves, and they waste all their money in spending lavishly on their own wishes. But when the Quran says spend, it means spend in the cause of God, spend for all the categories of people that have been that God has told us about, who have a right over our wealth. It's the parents, the relatives, the poor, the orphan, and so on. So here it is said, spend of that which we have given you. Anfiqu mimma razaqnakum, whatever we have given you, spend of that, spend of whatever we have given you. So that means not only just wealth or food. Sometimes people think of risk as their food and also their income. But it's not just limited to these two things. It means everything that God has given us. What else has God given us? He could have given us a lot of extra time. Maybe we have other people, servants, etc. to look care of our needs. And then we have a lot of extra time. We can share that with other people. We can use it in doing something good for others. Then sometimes, a person might have a lot of knowledge. So he's not supposed to keep that knowledge to himself, but he should share that knowledge with others. Then sometimes people say, share your children with others. Now, it's a bit difficult to understand how one could share one's children. The way one could share one's children is all those people who have a right on us also have a right to spend some time with our children, because children bring a lot of joy. So the children's grandparents and uncles and aunts and all these other relationships, they have a right on our children, and we should try to make the children socialize with them. That will be a way of sharing them with those who have a right on them. So we have to spend and share everything that we have been given before the day arrives in which there will be no transactions and no friendship and no intercession. So which is this day? Of course, it is the last day, or the day of resurrection, in which it will be too late to do any more good deeds. So spending from what one has been given is an attribute is also of the pious. If we look at verse number 3 in Surah Al-Baqarah, it says, Hudal lil muttaqina, that is, the Quran is guidance for the muttaqi, for the pious, for the God conscious, for those who love God. So this is supposed to be an extremely good deed. And this fact is repeated many times in the Quran. So every kind of spending in God's way is, whatever pleases God is the way of spending it for the right cause. So on that last day, we will not be able to add to our record of good deeds. So we have to make use of the time we have in this world and do as much good as possible. So on that last day, there will be no transactions. You see, in this world, if we have done something wrong, maybe we'll be asked to pay a fine, and then we can get out of that situation. Or sometimes people might give a bribe, and they might be able to get out of that situation. So there will be no giving and taking, no transactions on that day, and no friendship. That is, all the support that we have in this world from our friends and relatives will be missing on that day. Even a son will not be able to help his parents, and the parents will not be able to help their children. In some cultures, we know that this support from friends and relatives goes a long way, in protecting and supporting people who are in trouble. Then the last thing mentioned in this sentence, and there will be no intercession. So we know that there will be intercession. In fact, we have great details about the Prophet ﷺ, who will be stationed at the station of praise, which is the Maqam Mahmud, the station of praise. And from there, he will be doing intercession for whomever God gives permission for. So when it is said here that there will be no intercession on that day, in verse number 254, it means that we will have no control over it. We cannot say, please do intercede for me. No, it is only those people for whom God gives permission, and only those people to whom permission has been given to intercede, they will be able to intercede. For example, besides the prophets, the Hafaz, the preservers of the Quran, who have learned the Quran, the whole Quran by heart, then the Walis, the saints, the Shaheeds, all these people who have a high ranking, spiritual ranking, they will be eligible to perform the intercession. And in Surah number 17, that is Surah Bani Israel, verse number 17:9, we find this about intercession and about Maqam Mahmud. And we also know that God is the ultimate intercessor, because others will only request Him, pray to Him, please, forgive this person. But the ultimate decision will be in God's hands, and also the permission will be in hands as to whom, for whom, and to whom to give the permission. The next verse number 255, is a very important verse. This is something that most believers learn by heart. And it is also supposed to be a verse that helps to protect you. Especially it is believed that if you recite it at any time of the day or night, it will protect you for about 24 hours at least. Besides that, there is also a hadith which says that if somebody recites it after every obligatory prayer, then that person will be eligible for Jannah. Also, if somebody recites it before going to sleep, this has great spiritual value, and it will also protect the person and also the people that he prays for to be protected. And also it is considered to be 1/4 in importance to the whole Quran. Allahu la ilaha illa huwal hayyul qayyum la ta'khuzuhu sinatun wa la nawm lahu ma fis samawati wa ma fil ard man zal ladhi yashfa'u indahu illa bi'izni ya'lamu ma bayna aydihim wa ma khalfahum wa la yuhituna bi shay'in min ilmihi illa bima sha'a wasi'a kursiyuhu as-samawati wal arda wa la ya'uduhu hifzuhuma wa huwal aliyyul azim. So this whole verse, number 255, is known as the Ayat al-Kursi. The word Kursi has been translated as the throne. It is known as the throne verse and also as the pedestal verse. So God is He. There is no deity except Him. That means no one is worthy of worship except for God. He is the Al-Hayyul Qayyum. That is the alive, the maintainer of life. He is the alive. That means He has always existed and He will always exist. So He will be eternally alive, and He has been alive since the beginning. These are two of His 99 names, Al-Hayy and Al-Qayyum, and they're often recited together for several benefits. Al-Qayyum means the one who is self-sustaining and one who stands up and sustains others. And all things we know are sustained through Him. Now, the name here, the very first word in this verse, Allahu, that means the name Allah combines all the attributes found in Al-Asma al-Husna, in the 99 beautiful names. So Al-Qayyum is the one who is concerned with the creation, the nurturing and existence of all creatures. And sometimes people say that this is a very important name. Some people, some commentators have also called it the mother of all the names. So here we have read up to here. What is He? There is no deity except Him. He is the alive, the maintainer of life. He neither dozes nor does He sleep. That means he's taking care of everything in the universe, all his creatures, everything. And millions of people are praying to him with this firm belief that he is listening to us. So how does he manage to do all these things? And in spite of managing to do all these things, he doesn't get tired. He neither dozes nor does he sleep. That means his connection with his creatures is never severed or broken. His connection with his creatures is always there, whether it is night or day, morning or evening, whatever it is, whatever time it is, God is in connection with his creatures because he's the Qayyum. He sustains everything, he nurtures everything. And whatever there is in the universe is his creation, and he is responsible for them. To him belongs whatever is in the heavens and in the earth. Who is it that can intercede with him except by his permission? So we come across this word again, that no one can intercede with God, no one can ask for a favor from God for another person unless and until he gives us his permission. Now, this also has some very interesting details, that all the prayers that we say for each other, every day we meet people, our friends and relatives, and please pray for me, I'm going through this problem, or please pray for me, my son has applied for a job, so on and so forth. So all this that we do, that we, praying for each other, and we also know that sometimes angels also pray for the pious people who are obedient to God. And all these things are also supposed to be a kind of an intercession. There is also this parable of a group of men who were traveling, a few men who were traveling, and they went inside a cave to rest. And it just so happened that a big boulder fell down and closed the entrance to the cave. Now, this was a very dangerous situation, and they had to, they just couldn't do anything about it. They couldn't move that heavy boulder, so they started praying. And each one of them, in this case, prayed referring to one of the good deeds, some of the good deeds that they had done in their life. So they said, please they prayed to God, please get us out of this situation, and I appeal to you in the name of that good deed that I had committed when I had done something for so and so. So each one of them prayed with reference to their good deeds. So this is also a kind of intercession. And sometimes you can intercede, you believe that the Quran, that the verses of the Quran that you have been reading, that is also an intercession for you. All the things which will come in handy to get you out of trouble, especially on the last day, these things are a kind of intercession. And also about this surah, this Ayat al-Kursi, the throne verse, it is also said, there is a hadith which says that anyone reciting the Ayat al-Kursi after every obligatory prayer, that means at least 5 times a day, will be assured of Jannah. And this verse will become an intercessor for that person. He knows what happened earlier and what is to happen later. So God has knowledge of everything. You can't hide anything from God. They cannot encompass anything from His knowledge except as much as He pleases. So the knowledge of God is so vast that no one can acquire, even dream of acquiring all that knowledge. In fact, it is said in the Quran that if all the oceans of the world were turned into ink, and if all the trees were turned into pens, you would still not be able to exhaust the knowledge of God. And the greatest amount of knowledge that God shared, that God divulged with anybody, was the knowledge that He gave to His prophets. And even that, it is said, is not even like a drop in an ocean as compared to the knowledge of God. They cannot encompass anything from His knowledge except as much as He pleases. His throne is greater in vastness than the heavens and the earth, and He does not tire in protecting them. He is the Most High, the Supreme. So his throne is greater in vastness than the heavens and the earth. Now some people explain the throne to be his knowledge, his power, his sovereignty, and all this, his throne includes his throne, his majesty and his glory, and this is more vast and all than all the seven heavens put together. We were talking about these two names of God, Al-Hayyul Al-Qayyum. Imam Ghazali says that if you recite Al-Hayyul Qayyum 1,000 times on a Sunday, this can, and then pray for whatever you want to pray for, then this will be very effective. He also says, Imam Ghazali also says, he thinks that the main aim and purpose of the Quranic sciences is the knowledge of the essence and attributes of God. And verse 255, that is this Ayatul Kursi, throne verse, popularly known as the Ayatul Kursi or the throne verse, embodies this knowledge. Hence, Prophet Muhammad ﷺ called it the greatest of Quranic verses. And we have just mentioned that it is recited in the original to invoke protection of all kinds. La ikraha fid din, qad tabayyana ar-rushdu min al-ghayy, wa man yakfur bit-taghuti wa yu'min billahi faqad istamsaka bil-urwatil wuthqa. Lan fisama laha, wallahu sami'un alim. There is no compulsion in religion. Without doubt, guidance has become clear from misguidance. So the one who denies the evil forces and believes in God is as one who has held on to a strong handle which is unbreakable. And God is the all-hearing, the all-knowing. So there is no compulsion in religion. There is this cliche which has been going around for, centuries, in which non-Muslims often say this. They say that Islam was spread by the sword. But according to the Prophet, faith resides in the heart. And we know that the heart is the most independent part of a person. Even the Prophet, in this connection about the heart, the Prophet had said that whatever I have been commanded to do, I obey. But except this was in connection with his wives, because he was supposed to treat them equally. And he said, I can treat them equally in every other respect, except for the love which I have for, certain wives, which is more than the love for others. And that is because the love resides in the heart. And the heart is the most important, independent part of any person's. That means if you force a person to believe, he most probably will not believe. And if he's coerced, then just to get out of that situation, he might say, okay, I believe. But then his heart will not believe. So that is why the Quran says there is no compulsion in religion. You cannot force a person to follow a faith. You can just show him the right way. So فَمَنْ يَكْفُرْ بِالطَّاغُوتِ, without doubt, guidance has become clear from misguidance. So the one who denies the evil forces and believes in God. وَمَنْ يَكْفُرْ بِالطَّاغُوتِ وَيُؤْمِنْ بِاللَّهِ فَقَدْ اسْتَمْسَكَ بِالْعُرْوَةِ الْوُثْقَى. That means the one who has denied the evil forces and believed in God, he has held on to a strong handle. That is a strong handhold, a grip that will not fail him. He will always be protected because he will always be holding. Have you ever seen a little child who's going out somewhere with his mother? And if he's just holding on to her skirt or her shirt, his grip is so strong that you will not be able to take it out of his hand. That means that child knows that this is my mother, and my mother will protect me no matter what happens. The same is the case here, that the person who has denied the evil forces and who has believed in God is one who has a strong handhold, a strong grip, and it will never fail him. The word used here for evil forces is taghut. Taghut can mean a lot of things. Of course, evil forces, it can refer to Satan, Shaitan, any false deity that people are worshipping, or somebody who's rebellious, then all the soothsayers and the magicians and the idols, they all come under the word Taghut. And one word which covers all these is evil forces. So all the negative evil forces. So the one who has denied these evil forces and he has believed in God, then he is in a strong position. He has a strong grip. Lan fisama laha, which will not fail him. Wallahu samiyun alim. And God is the all-hearing and the all-knowing. Now the next verse is Allahu waliyul lazina amanu yukhrijuhum min az-zulumati ila an-nur wal lazina kafaru awliyahum taghutu yukhrijunahum min an-nuri ila az-zulumat ulaika ashabun nari hum fiha khalidun. God is the friend or the protecting friend and helper of those who believe. Wali is a friend. Sometimes he's also described as a protecting friend, sometimes as a helping friend. Helper of those who believe. He brings them out of darkness into light. Yukhrijuhum min az-zulumati ila nur. Zulumat is used in the plural and it means darknesses. And nur is the word which means light. And we have, I think, discussed this earlier, that nur is not the normal kind of light that we have from a bulb or from the sun or from a fire, but it has very spiritual, ethereal qualities. Even God has described himself as a nur. So God is the protecting friend and helper of those who believe, and he brings them out of darkness into light. So guidance is the light and misguidance is the darkness. As for those who deny, their friends are the evil forces. وَالَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا أَوْلِيَاهُمْ طَاغُوتُ يُخْرِجُونَهُمْ مِنَ النُّورِ إِلَى الظُّلُمَاتِ. So those who denied what? Denied God, denied his messengers and all the messages that they brought, their books and all the other things that the prophets taught. When somebody denies all that, then their friends are the evil forces, the Taghut, which we have just discussed. And what do these forces do? They bring them out of the light into the darkness. Out of the light, how do they do that? So maybe somebody is born in a believing family and he's been taught everything, but somehow he moves away from it and he moves from light into darkness. These are the people of the fire. They will live in it forever. Now we just said that Zulumat is a plural word, plural of, darkness. So it means darknesses. And Nur is only of one kind. Guidance is only of one kind. So here, the word Nur is used in its singular form. And Zulumat, evil forces, are of many kinds. Everything wrong, everything evil, everything that takes away from God is Taghut, and that is darkness, Zulumat. So since there are evil forces of many kinds, the word used here is in the plural. Ulaika ashabun nari hum fiha khalidun. So these are the people of the fire, they will live in it forever. Alam tara ila allazi hajja Ibrahima fi rabbihi an atahu Allahul mulk. Is qala Ibrahima rabbi allazi yuhyi wa yumitu qala ana uhyi wa umit. قال إبراهيم فإن الله يأتي بالشمس من المشرق فأتي بها من المغرب فبهت الذي كفر والله لا يهدي القوم الظالمين. Did you learn about the one who argued with Ibrahim about his Lord because God had made him a sovereign? When Ibrahim said to him, "My Lord is the one who gives life and takes it away," because this is referring to this altercation that Hazrat Ibrahim a.s. had with the king of the country in which he used to live at that time, and it is said that he was born in the city of Ur and in the region of Mesopotamia, which is now in Iraq. So this is King Nimrod or Namrud, and when he heard, since in those days all the kings called themselves God, just like Pharaoh, they had such a they were so hungry for power that just being a king was not enough for them. So they also called themselves God. So when Nimrod heard that there is a young man who is defying all the idols, and he's saying that this is wrong, and he's saying the king is not God, and all the things that they worship, the sun and the moon and the stars, they are not gods. There's only one God. So he called him and he asked him, who is your Lord? What is he like? And Ibrahim said, my Lord is the one who gives life and takes it away. So this king replied, I can also give life and take it away. So what he did was, he called two men. One of them was a condemned man who was, in the death row, and he was about to be given the capital punishment. So he called him and he forgave him in front of everyone. He said, I pardon you, and now you will not be killed. So here, you see, I've given a person his life. And also he called an innocent man and had him put to death and said, see, I can also give life and death. So after this, Hazrat Ibrahim a.s. said, God brings out the sun from the east. You bring it out from the west if you can. The unbeliever was totally taken aback. God does not guide the people who transgress. So of course he was shocked. He didn't know that he would be asked to do such an impossible thing. So in this way, Nimrod's pretense of being God was exposed in front of everyone. After that, he decided to punish Ibrahim a.s. And when he was unable to frighten him, he decided to burn him in the fire, and we'll read about that later when we come to it. Hazrat Ibrahim a.s., that is Abraham. وَكَالَّذِي مَرَّ عَلَىٰ قَرْيَةٍ وَهِيَ خَاوِيَةٌ عَلَىٰ عُرُوشِهَا قَالَ أَنَّىٰ يُحْيِي هَٰذِهِ اللَّهُ بَعْدَ مَوْتِهَا فَأَمَاتَهُ اللَّهُ مِائَةَ عَامٍ ثُمَّ بَعَثَهُ قَالَ كَمْ لَبِثْتَ قَالَ لَبِثْتُ يَوْمًا أَوْ بَعْضَ يَوْمٍ قال بل لبست 100 عام فانظر إلى طعامك وشرابك لم يتسنى وانظر إلى حمارك ولنجعلك آية للناس وانظر إلى العظام كيف ننشزها ثم نكسوها لحما فلما تبين له قال أعلم أن الله على كل شيء قدير. So this is a parable, and it brings out the fact of the power of God to resurrect people, because when people did not believe, the first objection that they had was, after we are dead and we have turned to dust, will we be raised again? Will we be made alive again? How can that be possible when our bones have decayed and we have all, our body has decayed? So resurrection was a big problem for people. So here it is said that there was this man who was passing by a habitation which had been abandoned for some reason for a long time. It was in utter ruins, and he looked at that and he said, how will God bring this back to life after its death? How will all the people who lived here, how will they all come back to life? So God kept him dead for 100 years and then raised him up again. And he asked him, how long did you stay here? He replied, a day or part of a day, because when one is asleep, one has no concept of time. God replied, no, you stayed here for 100 years. Look at your food and drink. It has not gone bad. And look at your donkey. All this is so that we may make you a sign for people. And look at those bones. See how we join them and how we cover them with flesh. When the truth became clear to him, he said, I know well that God has power over everything. So this person, maybe he was not a disbeliever, he was a doubter, we're not sure. But then he was shown how people will be resurrected. And since he did not believe in this, but some people say that he was a minor prophet, and we don't know his name, but I'm not sure about that. Then we know that his donkey had died and decayed, and in front of his eyes, the donkey was brought back to life. And God said, this is how we are going to resurrect people on the day of judgment. And the whole process of resurrection of the donkey, coming to life of the donkey, was done in front of his eyes. So then of course, after he saw everything with his own eyes, he could not disbelieve it anymore. So he said, I know well that God has power over everything. So many times in the Quran, this topic has come up, the miracle of birth and rebirth. And God says, how did we bring you to life the first time? If we can bring you to life, if we can make a person come to life for the first time, we can also repeat that process. وَإِذْ قَالَ إِبْرَاهِيمُ رَبِّ أَرِنِي كَيْفَ تُحْيِي الْمَوْتَى قَالَ أَوَلَمْ تُؤْمِنْ قَالَ بَلَى وَلَكِنْ لِتَطْمَئِنَّ قَلْبِي قَالَ فَخُذْ أَرْبَعَةً مِنَ الطَّيْرِ فَصُرْهُنَّ إِلَيْكَ ثُمَّ اجْعَلْ عَلَى كُلِّ جَبَلٍ مِنْهُنَّ جُزْءًا ثُمَّ ادْعُهُنَّ يَأْتِينَكَ سَعْيًا وَاعْلَمْ أَنَّ اللَّهَ عَزِيزٌ حَكِيمٌ. Remember, Ibrahim said, O my Lord, show me how you bring the dead back to life. He said, do you not believe? Ibrahim replied, yes, indeed, but just to reassure my heart. He said, catch 4 birds and train them to come to you. Then keep a part of each on a hill and call them to yourself. They will come alive and will come running to you. And know well that God is the mighty, the wise. Now we see the difference between Ibrahim alayhi salam's questioning God and this other doubter who had said, how can this thing come back to life? But Ibrahim alayhi salam said, show me how you will bring the dead back to life. The process of bringing back to life. And then God said, do you not believe? He said, no, I do, but I just want to reassure my heart. Now, some commentators have given this explanation that there is such a thing as Ainul Yaqeen, which means eye-witnessing, the faith that comes through seeing something with your own eyes. And this is what Ibrahim alayhi salam was trying to achieve, because he had the faith through knowledge, but he didn't have the faith through eye-witnessing. We also know that when witnessing is done, in any case, the eyewitness is the most important witness, because when someone says, I saw it with my own eyes, then you cannot dispute it. So he wanted to achieve the rank of faith through eyewitnessing. Show me how you will resurrect the dead. مَثَلُ الَّذِينَ يُنْفِقُونَ أَمْوَالَهُمْ فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ كَمَثَلِ حَبَّةٍ أَنبَتَتْ سَبْعَ سَنَابِلَ فِي كُلِّ سُنبُلَةٍ مِائَةُ حَبَّةٍ وَاللَّهُ يُضَاعِفُ لِمَن يَشَاءُ وَاللَّهُ وَاسِعٌ عَلِيمٌ. The semblance of those who spend of their wealth in the way of God is like that of a grain which grows 7 shoots, and each shoot produces 100 grains. And God increases for him whomever he wills, for God is the vast, the all-knowing. So throughout the Quran, the believers are being encouraged to spend their wealth in the way of God. It is said that in several places it is said that somebody who spends, we will reward him double of what he has spent. In some places it is said we will reward him 10 times of what he has spent. But here, if you calculate this, the parable of the example of the shoot which grows 100 grains in each shoot, then it comes to 700 times. So this is how much a reward can be multiplied. Of course, the reward will be multiplied, the multiplication of the reward will be done according to the circumstances under which the charity was done. While the reward will be multiplied, the punishment will not. It is said that when this verse number 261 was revealed, the Prophet ﷺ said, Rabbi zidni ummati. Oh my Lord, give even more to my ummah. Like, here it is being said 700 times, and the Prophet was not satisfied even with that for his followers. He said, oh Lord, give even more to my followers. And the reply came, those who are patient will be rewarded without measure. So here the answer was not about spending, but it was about being patient, about having forbearance, about not being hasty in taking revenge. So if a person had sabr, which has all these qualifications that I just mentioned, then he will get a reward without measure. And according to some ahadith, it is said that those who have displayed sabr or patience, their book of records will be closed and they will not be questioned about anything, and they will be asked to go straight to heaven. We did go into details about Hazrat Ibrahim alayhi salam's questioning about resurrection and what he was asked to do by God. We can do that now. Hazrat Ibrahim alayhi salam was instructed to take 4 birds and to make them, familiar with him. So, and some commentators say that the 4 birds he took were a peacock, an eagle, a raven, and a rooster. So, and he was supposed to first make them, familiar with him, so that whenever he called them, they came running. And then he was supposed to cut them up and put their pieces on 4 different hilltops, and then call them when they were already dead. And then he said, when you call them, they will come running to you. And it is said that this is exactly what happened when Hazrat Ibrahim alayhi salam carried out this command. Some commentators have said that these 4 birds represent certain lusts or bad qualities, you might say. For example, they say that the eagle represents lust for food. It never has enough. And the rooster has lust for sex. The crow has, a great deal of curiosity. And the peacock has vanity. So maybe this is a parable, and one is supposed to learn from this that one should try and kill all these negative wishes and desires that one has and go running back to God. قَوْلٌ مَعْرُوفٌ وَمَغْفِرَةٌ خَيْرٌ مِّن صَدَقَةٍ يَتْبَعُهَا أَذًى وَاللَّهُ غَنِيٌّ حَلِيمٌ. Kind words and forgiveness are better than charity accompanied with giving pain. God is the self-sufficient, the indulgent. Sorry, I think I've left out verse number 262. Those who spend their wealth in the way of God and then do not rebuke or hurt, for them is reward with their Lord. They will neither have fear nor regret. Sometimes, one gets annoyed with these people who keep coming back and asking you for things, and you might say some harsh things to them. So we are being told that we should not behave like this to people to whom we have been helpful. And if we feel annoyed and are inconvenienced by the needy, we should try to forgive them and should avoid harsh words. And also, we should try to veil of another's want. That means should not publicize the fact that so-and-so came to me and asked me for so much. All right, now we'll read the next verse. قَوْلٌ مَعْرُوفٌ وَمَغْفِرَةٌ خَيْرٌ مِّن صَدَقَةٍ يَتْبَعُهَا أَذًى وَاللَّهُ غَنِيٌّ حَلِيمٌ. Kind words and forgiveness are better than charity accompanied with giving pain. God is the self-sufficient, the indulgent. So here it is said that we should try to forget and forgive these people. And here some commentators have also said that forgiveness could also mean that you forgive the loan altogether that somebody had took, and that you know that he will not be able to pay you back. Of course, I'm not saying that this is a very easy thing to do, because some people just get into this habit of asking and asking, and they have no intention of paying you back. Then you should know how to deal with them, but do not be unkind and do not use harsh words. Now this verse that we had just read, 261, in which one grain, that is, if you have given 1 coin, and that could, under what circumstances you gave it, you could get a reward of 700 times. A certain commentator, Allama Qurtubi, is this Islamic scholar and muhaddis from Cordoba, Spain, I think 12th to 13th century. He thinks that this ayat makes it evident that agriculture and farming is one of the most honorable professions in the world. There is also a hadith which says, find your provision in the depths of the earth. It is also supposed to be a farz kifaya, which means that out of the whole community, that farz has to be done by at least some people. If nobody does it, then everyone will be accountable. But if some people do it, then the rest of the community will be forgiven. And also it is said that the leader of the country has the right to order farming and planting of trees. And full effort can also, this verse has been interpreted to mean that full effort in agriculture can produce up to 700 times the harvest. Ya ayyuhallazina amanu la tubtilu sadaqatikum bil manni wal azab kallazi yunfiqu malahu riya an-nasi wa la yuminu billahi wal yawmil akhir فمثله كمثل صفوان عليه تراب فأصابه وابل فتركه صلدا لا يقدرون على شيء مما كسبوا والله لا يهدي القوم الكافرين. O you believers, do not waste away your charity by reproach and pain. Now this topic is being repeated here. Like the one who spends in order to display his wealth to people and does not have faith in God or the last day. So some people spend just to show off, just to be able to, tell people that they have so much and they can give so much. So this is supposed to be the worst example of charity, giving for show and for appearance's sake. His semblance is like that of a smooth rock covered with soil. When a heavy rain falls on it, the rock is left clean and smooth. That means he will get no benefit out of it. A smooth rock is something something which does not have fertile soil, therefore nothing will grow on it. So whatever good deed he has done will be like washed away like a smooth stone. They will not gain anything from whatever they have earned of their deeds. God does not give guidance to the people who deny. وَمَثَلُ الَّذِينَ يُنْفِقُونَ أَمْوَالَهُمُ ابْتِغَاءَ مَرْضَاتِ اللَّهِ وَتَثْبِيتًا من أنفسهم كمثل جنة بربوة أصابها وابل فآتت أكلها ضعفين فإن لم يصبها وابل فتل والله بما تعملون بصير. The semblance of those who spend of their wealth to earn the pleasure of God and to make their own hearts strong is like that of a garden on a high spot on which heavy rains fall and bring forth double the fruit. If the rains do not fall on it, then the dew is enough. God sees all that you do. So people who are certain of their faith, those who have a strong faith, and they also have faith in the act of giving, or they have the certainty of the right place for giving. That also makes their heart strong if they know that they're giving it to the right cause, to the right people, or they are certain that God will reward them accordingly. So there is also this thing about obligatory charity and voluntary charity. And the basic rule is that one can give one's obligatory charity, like the zakah or zakat, openly. But even if that is not announced, it will be better. And voluntary charity is over and above the zakat, and that should not be announced openly, except, in certain cases when, for example, you want your children to learn from it, or other people who are under your influence, then it might be a good idea to let them know. So this garden on a high spot, Rabwa means a high land which is fertile. And there you also have heavy rains and it brings forth double its fruit. But even if the rains do not fall, that place is fertile enough that dew is enough to make the fruit and to bring out the harvest. This is like a example of the fruit of charity. If you are giving charity in the proper manner, in the proper way, for the sake of God, and you are sure that this is the right place to give it, then you get the fruit of charity in this way, that this is a fertile land in which you have put your seed and you will get the fruit for it. Sometimes charity can also be a sacrifice, because it's not always easy to give charity, and this person is really, really needy. So when you are helping that person, in a way you are making a sacrifice. أَيَوَدُّ أَحَدُكُمْ أَن تَكُونَ لَهُ جَنَّةٌ مِّن نَخِيلٍ وَأَعْنَابٍ تَجْرِي مِن تَحْتِهَا الْأَنْهَارُ لَهُ فِيهَا مِن كُلِّ الثَّمَرَاتِ وَأَصَابَهُ الْكِبَرُ وَلَهُ ذُرِّيَّةٌ ضُعَفَاءُ فأصابها إعصار فيه نار فاحترقت كَذَلِكَ يُبَيِّنُ اللَّهُ لَكُمُ الْآيَاتِ لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَفَكَّرُونَ. Suppose there was an orchard for you of date palms and grapevines with rivers flowing by and all kinds of fruit. How would you like it if you reached old age when the children are still young and a fiery whirlwind burnt it all up? This is how God makes clear His revelations so that you may ponder. Tatafakkarun, so that you may sit and think about it. So the semblance of those who spend for show on the judgment, all their deeds will be rendered useless. But this is another example. This is another example of the same case where somebody has worked so hard and spent so much money and effort and time on developing his orchard, which is in a very fertile place and it has rivers flowing by and you can grow all kinds of fruits in it. And now that the time has come for him to reap the harvest and for him to collect the fruit. So how would that person like it if a very fiery whirlwind came and burnt it all up? And he goes there in the morning and he finds that the whole orchard has come to naught. And his children are still young and he doesn't have the strength nor the money or the resources to start all over again. So this is the example of a person who has done the wrong kind of charity for the wrong reasons, that he will get no fruit in spite of having spent his money, his wealth, or whatever he is giving. All that will come to naught and he will not get any kind of benefit out of it. For today, we'll keep it up to here, and inshallah, next week we'll start from verse number 267, Surah Al-Baqarah, the cow. Let's do a short prayer. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammadin Nabiyil Ummi wa ala alihi wa ashabihi wa barik wa sallim. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Rabbana atina fid dunya hasanatan wa fil akhirati hasanatan wa qina azaban nar. وأدخلنا الجنة مع الأبرار يا عزيز يا غفار يا رب العالمين برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين آمين ثم آمين. All right, we meet again inshallah next week. See you soon. Allah Hafiz. Thank you all of you for joining us. Allah Hafiz.